Okay, the Udir's back. Okay, I mean, this is fine. You have good peel here. Not the greatest Orianna setup in the world for shockwaves. I mean, he's probably not going to be able to get into the team, and especially because of this big tank line in the front, you don't have a lot of good shockwave options or synergy. So yeah, it's okay though if they want to peel for the Jinx. I mean, there's not a whole lot of issues. Engage definitely better over here. So it's basically Battle of the Hyper Carries this game and who peels better. Pretty similar compositions and style. But of course, you always have that chance to get super farmed on that Shyvana. But usually with these games, so usually games like this, where you have two very similar compositions that kind of both want to do the same thing, right? You've got a big tank line, you have a hyper carry, and you have the peel support. So there's not, you know, one team isn't trying to split push while another team wants to go for 5v5 team fighting. They both want to scale with the AD carries into the late game. In games like this, they tend to be really snowbally because once one team gets a lead, since both teams have similar win conditions, it can snowball really, really fast for one team.
Honestly, I thought it was going to be 2 tweets, and he was going to say, oh, a shame they didn't pick Udia in game 1. I was like, ah, ha, ha, blah, blah. And then it was a joke. We completely missed it. Anyway, it was a sad moment of the life. Trevor, quickshot Henry, Martin official. Because you were on it too. You didn't
like, it's similarly, if you think about it, if like both teams are trying to split push, and they have one really strong split push champion, if that split push champion gets an advantage, then he'll pretty consistently win duels. I actually don't like watching games where both teams are trying to do the same thing.
Defensive starts, no deep wards, no invades. Are we expecting lane swaps yet, officially?
And the poor junglers is going to sit back and do nothing.
To me, they're boring because you're not really trying to strategically outplay each other at that point.
Yay. So let's find out which jungler can make the most of the early game.
I'm so surprised about this Cho'Gath pick, because whenever I talk to some of the mid laners in the LCS, they're like, yeah, we never want to pick him if we can get kited around, if there's not like a clear target we can one-shot. And this was the last pick from SK Gaming coming in. Let's see if they can do anything in the laning phase. Obviously, back to their game 1 kind of strategy in terms of pick comps, and sorry, in terms of the composition and the play style from SK, not the 1-3-1 assassin mid lane, roam around the map. Now, this is very team fight focused for both teams. Then you obviously have the double smite now on SK Gaming, which you
well, Hylissang got Morgana again. I think that's really the problem here. At this point, I mean, SK did win the last game in spite of the Thresh, but I think that was mostly because UoL was not positioning well for those fights, right? And so I guess in this, if I was coming into this one, I'm still really worried about Hylissang, and I would have been really worried about him having seen the last series against Gambit too, and they don't even really try and ban him out, which I think is something they should at least try in this series. Okay, well, it's pretty predictable. If they did their research, they should know that Kikis was doing that level 2 gank cheese in the last game too, against Gambit. So they're ready for that. No big deal.
Here's the downside though, if you go for this level 2 gank in the bottom lane, you show yourself on the map, so Svenska now can pick where does he want to go, and which camps can he take. Luckily for Kikis, then Svenska didn't start on the blue buff, and therefore he gets to take one as well. And Svenska started his own blue, he those just run across the map, potentially been able to steal their way from Kikis.
Oh, good reaction from Svenskeren over on the other side, just seeing that gank on bottom.
Taking each other's camps and buffs. One extra one here for Sven, with the Grom's still alive on the top side. We'll see who can...
Also, if we go back, okay, so because they got this favorable trade,
then you obviously have the double smite now on SK Gaming, which you can use if you get a lead in your lane to start.
So in theory, what would be nice here for SK is to be able to push out this wave safely. See, here is the issue, okay? you shouldn't be walking this far forward, because you can be ganked here at level 2, and because N-rated takes a bunch of damage right here and has to flash, and then they get a favorable trade onto Forgiven as well. What ends up happening is that they get pushed back into the turret. If Kiki's is not punished down on this bottom side because N-rated took that binding, if he had stayed here and not committed like that, they could have kept pushing the wave, in which case they could have collapsed on the buff onto Kikis, right? And then punished him for this gank, because he would have been caught out right at the blue buff. But because N-rated eats that bind, now this lane is able to be pushed up, and they can't respond at all to Kikis. So he just gets this blue buff for free, and he isn't punished at all. Maybe he may have been able to flash for the stun as well. And he's here. I think maybe he should flash here. Like, flash here. And then try and, like, respond or blow the flash so that he would be at the end of the jump or the flash.
After eating a Hillesang binding, got to be very, very careful to not get caught out like we saw in the previous game.
So there are a lot of ways you can punish these level 2 ganks, and they could have maybe 3-buffed off of that, but the binding hit, and they got that really good trade. So they can't punish it. Yeah, that's true. He probably did think Morgana went W first. But if she hasn't laid down her W on the wave, because most of the time you play Morgana, you just walk up and W so you can get that faster level 2. You have to be suspicious.
We'll see who can continue to grow their lead. Fox farming up defensively against Power of Evil, using that command attack just to bully the little miniature Cho'Gath. Cho's passive is going to keep him relatively well sustained, so not feeling the pressure yet. Carnival powers, and we do see the wave being pushed back. His Power of Evil no longer at risk of pushing past his own.
Most likely going back to the game one fairly passive early game in terms of what we expect to happen. There's a lot of fights going on, but none of the laners have any clear-cut kill pressure on each other. Farm lane in the mid lane, you got that shield from Orianna, you're going to go for Athenes, so the one-shot potential of the Cho'Gath goes down. In that sense, Vardax and Hillesang, they want to wait for level 6 before they start going for any all-ins, and of course the 2 big tanks in the top lane should never really be at threat of dying to each other either. It's going to be about the junglers instead. Sven already got an early ping ward. As always, focus on the bottom side. Leave Freddy on his own on these tanks here. You want to secure your mid and your bottom lane. First gank onto Power of Evil here.
Scaren's bringing presents, and it's going to do a little bit of damage.
A whole lot of damage there.
Power of Evil able to block a lot of that damage with his command protect. All of a sudden, Kikis almost ran into Sven Skaren. Still got his flash available, level 3 this time round.
Didn't get a
Spear and Turtle. There's no flash for Enrated, but Kikis is right on top of a ward. And the bubble's going to give away the position. A couple of auto attacks plus that explosive charge means Kikis is not going to be able to set anything up. And this time round, given an Enrated...
So we're just kind of waiting for something to happen right now. Considering how both these teams really want to farm up, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of action. We may just skip forward a bit, because I don't think we're going to see much. And if somebody dies, we'll go back and look at it. But otherwise, I assume we're just going to see a lot of farming.
Chachi gets jumped on by Freddy,
which is going to be the only difference.
Oh god, this is so boring.
Can they get a flank in that opens up for an opportunity where they see someone?
There's the gank you talked about, Fisher. There's no explosive charge, but it may not be needed. Vardax and Hillesang very deep up the lane. Black Shield is on. Where is the bubble? Darkbinder, Cat's Enraged on the background. Black Shield's not going to be enough. Vardax forced to flash and heal, but does make it out. Here comes Kikis. Nothing else will be able to follow, but successful gank. Burning the summoner spells of Hillesang. Keep in mind, Forgive was an opening. At the same time, you had the pink in mid, and you had the rifts.
Okay, so you use that opportunity to go set up a drag after burning that. SK playing really standard right now. And they'll get that one for free, and they'll also have time for a recall.
And you get yourself a free Dragon. This is all being built up.
After, well, I guess, you can push out the wave, I guess. Vardag still isn't in lane yet. They have explosive shot on Tristana, so better just to shove that one out before you recall. He should have quite a bit of money. It's all very, very standard so far. Okay, goes back, picks up BF and Longsword. Nothing's happening in top lane. Freddy picked up Cinder first, helps him push the wave faster. Vizicachi going for a very weird build of Kindle Gem into double cloth armor. Not sure about that one. Probably should, yeah. I don't know if that's going to be very helpful for him, considering he's going to be constantly taking that AoE damage from the Cinder. I think he's going to get pushed out of lane much easier that way.
Flame Breath, you can even, if you want to, focus on split pushing, build a Blade of the Ruined King, which simply makes you win every single duel against the tanks. Up in that top lane, you're going to get that 20% damage reduction.
Okay, they know where Svenskeren is, do the pink ward, and we're just back to farming. The big difference is that at least Svenskeren on Gragas has a lot better kill pressure in the lanes, as opposed to Udyr, who's really just inferior in terms of farming. He's basically like a much worse Gragas because he doesn't have the mobility, doesn't have the body slam for as many gank angles, is more dependent on flash, doesn't have the ability to knock somebody into an unfavorable position with his ultimate. So I don't really see the value of playing Udyr when Gragas exists in League of Legends in the current state. Because it's much more likely that to get a reset off of a Gragas ult, and both of these AD carries want to reset really badly. Sorry, we're just skipping a bunch of this game because nothing's happening.
As somewhat expected, Farm Fest here in the start between the teams. It's going to be more about the big team fights near Dragon as one of the main objectives in this game before we really start seeing a lot of action happening.
Well, interesting to note, SK have the scaling comp. Kickers are sticking around middle. The shockwave comes out, but
what?
Honestly, the whole lot came from that. Fox has already got 6 stacks on that Cho'Gath, if I'm reading that correctly. A lot of hit points to burn through, 1,900 at level 9. Very, very beefy indeed.
I mean, they pushed him back so they get a little bit of counter jungling done. I guess every little bit helps. They denied some farm with that. And he's not going to need that shockwave anytime soon. It's not like Dragon's coming up or anything.
Split games. The style that got them to 15-3. We'll see if they can handle themselves better now in this 3rd game in a best of 5.
Freddy talked about in the opening feature here, saying we have more than one play style. And they are showing here they're not just relying on assassins and 1-3-1 split pushing. If it works for them, that's what we're going to have to see later in this game here, if they can pull off these team fights at all. Hillsang not connecting.
Not this time around.
Very even most lanes. SK though, as we tend to see them, do get a small CS lead. I mean, Forgiven against VOD, CS ahead.
Oh, good.
5 CS. So obviously it's a bit of a mismatch in terms of AD carries.
This is so boring.
Grow, because at 20 minutes, Forgiven gets to 23 CS ahead. Vardax falls 16 CS behind. It's a very, very large disparity. But no kills just yet. Still waiting for first blood. And despite that first Dark Binding earlier, Hillsang has not had the same level of impact that we've come to see. Power of Evil out of mana. Just using that shockwave to try and get some pressure on bot.
Both junglers just using the mid lane pressure to steal raptors from each other. So exciting. Freddy has been doing a good job of getting damage down onto this tower. That's actually going really well for SK. So it's just a slow attrition war right now. But the attrition war is slightly in favor of SK.
They haven't been able to defend them whenever Svensson cleared them out. And the gang's mid lane, well, you have an Athene's only. Just a lot of gold in
Okay, now something might actually happen. But nobody has good vision around the dragon yet, despite it coming up in 5 seconds.
CS advantage. You could maybe say expected against an Orianna. They're going to be a farm lane, so praise to him for mechanically doing a good job.
The difference is Cho'Gath gets a lot of mana back himself where Orianna, in order for her to try and push it back, she needs to invest a lot of mana. That's why Power B was out of it, and that's why he's slightly behind it in farm. See what Svensson can do. There's no ulti because he used it on the right.
That's really good for
The
SK.
deal here is the fact that Freddy on Shyvana, as we talked about against these tanks with the percent damage from her E, with the skirmisher saber giving some extra true damage as well, you can keep pushing that lane here. He's been the guy winning it.
So SK needs to wait right now. They don't want to go for this dragon till they get the crab, and also it'd be nice if Freddy could go back and pick up some items that he could buy after that tower. He just took Gromp. So he's really well set up too, because he used Smite on Gromp, which is going to be really good in any upcoming team fights. Because he just got back, he went back and bought Giant Spell too, so the Gromp buff going to be doing more work now. So if they can fight, they'd probably be in a good position to do it. But why would you go double cloth armor into Glacial Shroud Spectre's Cowl after Vizichachi's build this game is really not good. That's probably one of the main reasons why he lost that turret up in the top side too. Okay. And now a red buff going over to Freddy also. SK getting a lot of advantages just by delaying this dragon right now.
Blue buff is alive, so if they see him leave the lane, they might just expect him to be at that blue buff, and then you can once again go for the dragon when you know he's on the opposite side of the map. There's a lot of ultis invested. Flash as well from Hylissang onto a Gragas, who just body slammed the wall.
Yeah, managed to get out clean. Shockwave maybe a second late.
Here's the dragon, here's the Orianna on blue buff.
This is so annoying. This is... oh man. Yep, so they know he's a blue, so it's super easy for them to go ahead and make this decision. Udyr can't get over the wall to try and steal because he's Udyr, and that's it. You're going to take dragon. Not sure if Freddy got the blue buff or not. SK is doing a really good job with this lead, however. Yep, he got blue buff too. So Freddy's starting to pull away. Because remember, when we look at these gold leads with these top smite users, that they're taking minions that are worth more money than the regular minions, so that these numbers in reality, in terms of reflecting actual gold advantage, are much larger. Plus, Freddy got the solo gold from killing the turret and the global gold, and he's getting that money from the saber as well, the extra 30. So this is a bigger advantage than just 15 CS under normal circumstances.
It is a champion that scales up. You don't tend to think of Orianna having that great...
No, but that's why you need that blue buff. This is one of the good things about having Smite on your top laner, is if you're in this situation where there's zero kill pressure on you from an out-of-mana Orianna and a Scion, you can roam into that enemy jungle, you can contest these buffs here, take away some of their camps, and then you just get so strong in the late game where everything starts stacking up for you, which obviously is the whole goal here for Freddy and SK. They can be super happy with how this early game has gone because they're getting all the farm they need. So got the dragons. Deficio,
I have to ask now, we're approaching 20 minutes. No kills yet. No indication that either team even is looking for a team fight. What do each respective squad have to do to start getting advantages and take control of the game? As it stands,
I would go dive the Jinx because she's immobile. While she does have a black shield, and you need to make sure you can see where people are. You can move away from Power of Evil. This fight here is not going to do a whole lot because, again, Power of Evil doesn't have a lot of mana. Shockwaves, though.
Shockwave hits 2 feet.
What are they doing?
Barrel Scream doesn't connect. It's Kikis that gets first blood. Vizichachi comes in, and he takes down Santa. Wow. 2 kills for Unicorns of Love. You don't need to dive when Unicorns are able to respond.
Why would you...
and take control of the game. As it stands,
I would go dive the Jinx.
There is no reason to be here right now. He's trying to take out this pink ward, but why do you need to take out the pink ward? There's no dragon coming up anytime soon. You just took it. You're all by yourself. The bottom lane is pushed in.
While she does have a black shield, and you need to make sure you can see where people are. You can move away from Power of Evil.
And you don't have a gap closer, and Svenskeren doesn't do anything with his body slam. just able to kite him forever and dodge out from the feast. And then Vizicachi's is going to port in, and there's no port from Freddy. Wow. They just lost 2 people and a tower, at least one for 2 hits on a pink ward. Just SK not playing where the pressure is at all. Wow, they're going to get 2 towers. Holy shit. Well, Unicorns love, props to them. They really capitalized on that, but it was not really a great idea to be walking in there for a pink ward.
Gifted some kills. The same happened against Gambit to a much larger degree, let's be honest. But SK trying to just ward up the jungle, and it's Unicorns that responded. Talk me through this one.
Right, so basically what's happening here is SK...
Oh, 1 hit on a pink ward, excuse me.
Low on mana. They think they can make a play on the opposite side or down the bottom side of the map where he won't be able to roam down with them. But because they're just running around...
I mean, they don't even TP. And then Freddy doesn't... Look, Freddy, if you want to stay here, you've made a decision to stay here and not TP, just kill the tower. Yeah, you have to wait for the next wave or whatever, but it's better than just running around in a circle.
Has problems if he cannot get that one-shot combo off. It was flashed away. There's no damage on Power of Evil. Fight for Unicorns.
And that's something you highlighted as a major factor in picks and bans. Not liking the Cho'Gath because he doesn't want to use Feast on an Udyr. He doesn't want to use it on the front line of Udyr and Cyan. And if he doesn't flash, he's gonna get...
It's okay, SK didn't get punished that hard. At least they got 1 turret in the bottom lane in that trade.
Get a target to Feast. That's one of the reasons. But I think what SK were doing, they could have done it 30 seconds later. Would start snowballing it because you knew there were...
Yeah, there's just no reason to even make that play. You already have such a huge pressure advantage in the top lane. Having that turret down and having Freddy be able to sweep through that jungle multiple times, just take control of the top side jungle. You don't need to take control of their bottom side jungle right now. It's having vision over the bottom side jungle does nothing. They don't have any... There's no dragon play to be made here. You're winning the one-on-one in the top lane. Ward, go in and ward this. And just let Freddy farm out everything on this side.
We'll see if they decide they have littered wards in the river as well as 2 pinks, in fact. And Freddy has teleport where Vizicachi does not. Keep an eye on that. Ooh, Faith is wavering. That was 90-10 in the previous game. Now it's 69-31.
So the last few minutes for SK here, it's not been good for them. They lost 3 towers, gave over 2 kills. Now Power Evil finally gets a blue buff as well, which is going to stop SK from just pushing down his mid lane over and over, draining his mana and then making plays on the map.
Man, SK did such a good job of getting these little advantages, taking out that first tower, and then they just make a boneheaded play with no vision or inadequate vision, and they're really punished super hard by Unicorns. It is good of Unicorns, though, to punish that play so hard. It was, it wasn't a... losing... Giving up a couple of kills, but also getting 2 towers out of that was very decisive by them.
Which matters here. Brandon Zoman with the HP is great with the Cinderhold, but cooldown reduction is so important.
This is huge. So Vizicachi was actually able to complete 2 items at the same time right here, whereas Freddy went for Giant's Belt and then Cowl. So the fact that they have 2 Frozen Hearts done already, remember both of these compositions really want to get resets off of the AD carries in order to take down these team fights. So no Frozen Heart versus 2 Frozen Hearts is a pretty huge difference in terms of power spike right now for the items. Oops, wasted tidal wave.
Stuns coming in, knockback. HP is great with the Cinderhold, but cooldown reduction is so important on an Udyr and a Cyan because all you have
Is that a blind? Is that a blind binding?
Brandon Zoman with the HP is great with the Cinderhold, but cooldown reduction.
He's just checking the brush. That's really unlucky that Enraya got caught by that.
All you have to do is peel for your carries, and you need multiple stuns coming in, knockbacks, knockups.
Yeah, it's not. You wouldn't expect that binding to hit right there. It's just a brush check.
Not going to be available for the fight. Kikis is running into Forgiven. The bubble does connect. Well spot played there as Vizicachi runs straight into a wall. Rocket jump was the only thing used from Forgiven to get away. Take a look at the command attack, trying to zone away members of SK. Vizicachi, explosive charges on his kickers, does get a stun onto Freddy. Here comes Freddy, Dragon's Descent. We do see the binding onto Fox, that's going to keep him in play. Kickers knocked back by the...
Oh god, here come the Jinx resets. Oh no.
Here comes Fox, Bubble, onto Power of Evil. Come on, Protect keeps him alive. Forgiven, finally the focus, does get caught by the zap, and Vardags is trying to run him down. Is going to throw down the scrying orb. Come on, distance for the movement speed. Zap flashed away. Unicorns of Love get 3.
Yeah, that
Unable to get to the cameras.
Yes, and this
that setup there, a lot of that was just due to the power spike from the items. There was no glory yet onto Gragas, and then there was no completed second item onto this Shyvana.
in the fight like this here. Let's see it.
See, so Fox also is just trying to get over the wall right here, and they forced the rocket jump earlier on. But Vardags is just doing more damage right now because Unicorns has those completed items. And they do a good job of kiting out Freddy. So Freddy can't even get into the back line. And also Hill is saying this binding's really important because the flash. Fox wants to flash over right now. Why doesn't he flash? What is he doing?
Before the very end here, Pavio gets knocked up, moves into it, then gets bubbled. We get the feast finally. But
I think he should have flashed sooner.
Had no damage on these carries here in the back line. He couldn't get to them.
Unicorns of Love come out with another team fight victory. They get themselves a dragon. And we did catch just in that little picture-in-picture that Vardags almost got blown up by Forgiven. But was not to be the case. Forgiven still with a sizable CS advantage. This guy does not CS at anything lower than 10 CS a minute minimum. You see Kick is even able to defend the Gromp, I believe. Vizicachi's going to catch Freddy. Hillisang's going to root him in place. There is no Dragon's Descent yet. Power of Evil's running down with the red buff. And it will be Power of Evil that secures his 3rd kill of the game, as well as that death cap. Freddy, unfortunate this time around to get caught on that counter jump.
And all the Unicorns of Love have to do now is whenever they decide to fight around an objective, make sure you have proper vision control so you can see the TP coming in from Shyvana. She's the only one.
So at this point, I think UoL has that necessary gold advantage. Remember we talked at the beginning of the game how similar team compositions can snowball super hard. Well, now Vardags has a pretty big damage edge with a completed Phantom Dancer, and he'll be moving into that last Whisper soon, so UoL hit a really nice power spike at that dragon with double Frozen Heart versus no real completed core items, so SK didn't have the Glory, they didn't have the Randuin's Omen, and so they were able to pretty easily win that fight and get the necessary resets onto Jinx, whereas the resets didn't start coming in for Forgiven.
We're 25 minutes in. The Morgana pick has impacted picks and bans, and it has encouraged a scaling comp from both teams, as it did in Game 1. In Game 1, Unicorns had a near flawless control game. They played the objective.
Unicorns should be able just to roll through this now. There's not really any way that SK can fight them at the moment.
When SK is playing,
They should really just start baiting Baron.
late game comps,
If you're Unicorns, you already got all of this vision up in the top side of the jungle. So go back, start making some Baron plays. Even this early on, you have to be threatening. And SK just doesn't have very many wards because Svenskeren didn't buy a Sightstone here. And they only have this one upgraded ward totem. No Sightstone for either jungler. I think, I don't like that. I really think early Sightstone is pretty necessary on these tank junglers these days.
This game is the fact you pick a Cho'Gath as the last pick against a very heavy kite composition where
But UoL has more money, so they should be able to outward their opponents
and get the kills on
in general.
SK Gaming is not completely out of the game. They can still get that one shot. They can still get onto Vardags or Power of Evil. But they need Unicorns of Love now to make a mistake. And
Especially if you sell your Doran's ring
in order to get there,
and buy some wards. Put some wards in that slot,
Unicorns of Love to lose at this point.
which you don't need anymore at all.
their game to lose. Unicorns did
I'm gonna laugh if I'm wrong and somehow Power of Evil gets feasted and has like 30 HP left.
Did cost them one game in this best of 5 series.
Lives because of his Doran's ring. That's really unlikely.
Unicorns around him. He's got his Dragon's Descent to get away. Let's see which direction he opts to use it. Kickers is sticking in the river, waiting for a reactive play from Freddy. Freddy's still holding on to that descent. Kick is
SK
close
should
for
push
Ghana.
mid here. They have to
Running
get mid
through
tower.
the jungle. The rest of SK trying to maybe get Vardags. We did see the slow coming down. Freddy is out. It's Power that secures it. They're even in position.
This Orion's gonna be so scary once she gets Void Staff as well.
Yeah, he's gonna get it.
He does secure the tower. That's actually a fair trade. If SK can get away, that will be the question. Tidal Wave is available and is being thrown down. Svenskeren is now being locked up. Roar of the Slayer, not going to connect, but it's not needed. 2 kills for a tower, that is still an advantage to
Yeah, this is a Baron.
They can protect anything else.
No TP from Freddy here, so he's not going to be able to come down with a flank. And you're going to have to see their members of SK walking in near this Baron pit. Unicorns of Love with 2 quick kills. We even saw Hillesang, he tried to flash over the wall and block a body slam. If it came in from Svenskeren, they should be able to secure this Baron here. Nothing SK can do other than maybe a flash feast.
Oh, knockup from the smash. We are not going to see Fox taking that because Vardags just crits him down. Baron secured.
Wow.
Baron pit.
So really snowbally game. As suspected. Let's go back and take a look at how Freddy gets caught out right here. So Freddy has no wards on the top side of the map. He has his ward totem down, but his only ward is up here on top. So he sees Kick is coming in right here, and he wants to get out of this one, but this is a nice collapse from Unicorns of Love as well. There's not really a good way for him to get out of this situation anymore, because the Unicorns plays this really nicely, because we see that Power of Evil moves up above him, because they know that Hillesang was in the Baron pit clearing out a ward, and so they're going to come around this side. So the main route of escape, they need to cover this exit. So earlier we did see that Kikis was running back and forth right up here because he wasn't sure which way to go. So this allows him to commit to one side or another. And they have the pressure too here if the minion wave's up here. So you can collapse this way. So there's really no way that he can get out of this. But Power of Evil positions really well so that they can cover all exits, right? Come through here, come through here. So Freddy just gets absolutely trapped. And then that leads to the actual Baron, which is quite easily taken.
6,000 gold in the advantage. And Unicorns of Love just on a rampage. That early pick, Udia, is doing work. The kiting comp, even able to run SK down when they have favorable circumstances.
And you saw when he picked it, Braggers and Shyvana had already been locked in, so he knew, okay, there's no early pressure on me on Udia. I can take it and just power farm in the jungle. He's very far ahead compared to Svenskeren. If you look at jungle farm, that's why you could take it in the second rotation. Wait with some of his carries here. Oriana came in then late on for Power of Evil. Forgiven now. He's finding himself in a lot of trouble. And Visichachi shows no mercy.
No, none whatsoever.
It's a good port, because he ported right before the dragon was going to be taken too, so now they'll be able to get it pretty much for sure. Yeah, this game is, there's just nothing you can do anymore. You don't have, if you're SK, you don't have a good way to set up picks either, because you don't have hard CC. Basically, you have to hope that a barrel catches somebody so you can feast them, and that's really unreliable. So they have to team fight, and they're so far behind with a similar composition that team fighting really isn't an option. They can't split push either. They definitely can't split push. Well, Freddy can, but Sion's so tanky at this point that it just doesn't matter. The game's probably over here. Wow. Okay. Well, that's what happens when you play two very similar compositions like that sometimes. If one team plays it out properly and snowballs the lead, there's almost no hope in terms of coming back.
Big mistake, and the only way for SK to make it work.
Okay, game 4.
Pit 4 invaded, and I wouldn't fear a support pick that much. I would be more afraid of the Morgana